Writing for the majority, Justice Ginsburg stated, "Supposed inherent differences are no longer accepted as a ground for race or national origin classifications. Physical differences between men and women, however, are enduring. The two sexes are not fungible. A community made up exclusively of one sex is different from a community composed of both." Do you agree with Justice Ginsburg that there are physical differences between men and women that are enduring?
Senator, respectfully, I am not familiar with that particular quote or case,
Okay.
so it's hard for me to comment as to whether
All
or
right.
not.
I'd love to get your opinion on that, and you can submit that. Do you interpret Justice Ginsburg's meaning of men and women as male and female?
Again, because I don't know the case, I don't know how I interpret it. I need to read the whole
Okay.
thing.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition? No,
Yeah.
I can't.
You can't?
Not in
Okay.
this context.
So you
I'm not a
believe the
biologist.
meaning of the word woman is so unclear and controversial that you can't give me a definition?
Senator, in my work as a judge, what I do is I address disputes. If there's a dispute about a definition, people make arguments, and I look at the
All right.
law and I decide. So I'm not.
The fact that you can't give me a straight answer about something as fundamental as what a woman is underscores the dangers of the kind of progressive education that we are hearing about. Just last week, an entire generation of young girls watched as our taxpayer-funded institutions permitted a biological man to compete and beat a biological woman in the NCAA swimming championships. What message do you think this sends to girls who aspire to compete and win in sports at the highest levels?
Senator, I'm not sure what message that sends. If you're asking me about the legal issues related to it, those are topics that are being hotly discussed, as you say, and could come to the court. So I'm not able to.
I think it tells our girls that their voices don't matter. I think it tells them that they're second-class citizens, and parents want to have a Supreme Court justice who is committed to preserving parental autonomy and protecting our nation's children.
What it do, family and friends, and welcome to the second part of Biden's Three Stooges. This one's about Kentucky Derby Brown Jackson, or Kentucky Brown, whatever. Anyhow, I would like to speak about some of the things that really stuck out to me before she was confirmed, that a lot of people within the black community were speaking about, a lot of people within the new black media were speaking about, but a lot of people within the community still on that plantation had no problem fighting for this woman because she was a black woman, acting like we ain't seen this before, but let's jump into it. So let's start off with this article here from The Insider from 2002. Alabama's first black federal judge asks Biden not to tap Ketanji Brown Jackson for Supreme Court. The first black federal judge in Alabama sent a letter to President Joe Biden asking him to pass over a leading contender for the U.S. Supreme Court, NBC News reported on Friday. U.W. Clemens, a former state lawmaker who served as a federal judge in Alabama from 1980 to 2009, petitioned the president not to consider Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson for the vacancy that will be filled upon the departure of Justice Stephen Breyer later this year. Jackson, who has been a frontrunner for the seat, currently sits on the Federal Appeals Court in Washington, D.C. In his letter, Clemens said that there were several exceptionally well qualified black female aspirants for the Supreme Court, but expressed a desire to see Jackson out of contention for the nomination. The retired judge pointed to the case Ross v. Lockheed, a 2016 class action lawsuit brought forward on behalf of 5,500 black Lockheed Martin employees, as the basis for his opposition to Jackson's potential nomination. Jackson presided over the case, and Clemens said in the letter that the judge failed to greenlight the settlement that was reached, which was set to disperse $22 million to the employees. She refused to approve the settlement because, in her view, there was no common factual question, Clemens wrote. He continued, Judge Jackson gave the axe to a settlement designed to benefit black workers at one of the nation's largest employers, denied the injunction relief agreed to by Lockheed Martin that would have addressed the root cause of systemic racial bias and could have been a model for a nation hungry for racial equity solutions, denied the black workers the right to seek evidence to prove their claim of company-wide racial discrimination, and knowingly frustrated the rights of black workers to appeal her decision. Each of these considerations, standing alone, is a bell sounding the alarm that if Judge Jackson is appointed to the Supreme Court, simple justice and equality in the workplace will be sacrificed, he wrote. So, just to make sure we're all on the same page, Judge Kentanji Kentucky Derby Brown, okay? She struck down a settlement that was already agreed to by Lockheed Martin and those black employees. The only thing that settlement needed was her signature on it. And not only did she not sign off on it, not only did she make it impossible for those black employees to go in and get evidence to prove their case, but she made it nearly impossible for them to come back and appeal her decision. This is Judge Kentucky Derby Brown Jackson. And I know a lot of people are probably saying, you know what? Maybe it was just one case. Maybe she saw something that we didn't see and blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, you would have to explain this to me then. U.S. Supreme Court nominee Jackson, a tough sell on racial bias claims. A U.S. Park police officer said he was demoted and then fired by the agency because he's black. A Bureau of Land Management employee accused managers at the agency of hostile treatment because she is black. A pharmacist at a Washington hospital claimed he was dismissed from his job because he is black. Ketanji Brown Jackson, President Joe Biden's nominee to become the first black woman to serve on the U.S. Supreme Court, presided as a federal trial court judge in all three of these cases involving claims of racial discrimination. She ruled against all three plaintiffs. During Senate Judiciary Committee confirmation hearing last year after Biden nominated her to a federal appellate court, Jackson faced Republican questions about whether race plays a role in how she does her job as a judge. She says it does not, though the issue can arise again during her 4-day confirmation hearing before the committee begins on Monday. Reuters reviewed 25 cases in which Jackson issues substantive rulings as a U.S. District Court judge in Washington from 2013 to 2021 involving plaintiffs who made claims of racial discrimination, most involving the workplace. She ruled in favor of plaintiffs in only 3 of the cases. So only in 3 cases has she ever ruled for the plaintiffs. Of the 25 cases, 22 were pursued by black plaintiffs. Jackson ruled against 19 of the black plaintiffs. Now, I'm not surprised at what her comments was when they asked her if race played a factor, because everybody on the list that Biden was even thinking about to become the first black, the first black Supreme Court justice, they were all married to white men, or they were a part of the ABCDEFG group. And so I'm not surprised that she don't feel that race play a factor, because she goes home and she sleeps with a white man at the end of the day. And is it any surprise that the only two black chief justices that we have are married to white people? Is that a coincidence at all to anybody? So when you get these Democrats coming to you and say, Biden gave you your first vice president that's a black woman. Biden gave you your first Supreme Court justice that's a black woman. You got to look behind the scenes and see the things that people aren't telling you. Because she has no issue shutting down any problem that has anything to do with racial discrimination. So when, one of those cases come to the Supreme Court, guess who's going to be one of the top people to shoot it down? And the doors of the church are now closed. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Do your research on these people. Anyone they throw up in front of you and say, this is a good person for Black America. Anyone they speak highly of. Because the lamestream media don't do that when you're a black person in America unless you're one of their bootlicks. Peace, family.